everything I have is yours. Surrender. Here at your feet, Father. Sing this with me. I won't bow to idols. And I won't bow to idols. I'll stand strong and worship you. And if it puts me through the fire, I'll rejoice 'cause you're there too. And I won't be formed by feelings. I'll hold fast to what is true. 'Cause if the cross brings transformation, you can't hang me there with you. 'Cause death is just a doorway into resurrection life. And if I join you in the suffering, then I'll join you when you rise. And when you return in glory with all the angels and the saints, my heart will still be singing, my soul will be saved. Oh, and oh, Christ be magnified. Just let his praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. We're singing, oh, Christ be magnified from the altar of my life. And Christ be magnified. And sing it again, oh, Christ be magnified. Just let his praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. Singing, oh, Christ be magnified from the altar of my life. And Christ be magnified in me. Enthroned you, Lord. Be enthroned upon our praise tonight, God. Be magnified, O King. There's only one strong enough to save. There's only one who overcame the grave. There's only one who's worthy of all praise. And in his hands the keys of death and hell. And in his name a power that can heal. And by his blood our sins are washed away. His name is Jesus. His name is Jesus. His name is Wonderful Counselor, Almighty God. Nations kneel and glorify the Lord. Let all the earth tremble, for he comes, and he will judge the living
Sorry, this doesn't have to be done right at the moment, but I saw it. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Did you fall?
I hit the asphalt.
Oh no. Running? Oh, sorry, man. That's a bummer.
Sorry.
How you feeling?
Okay, it's just a shock.
Yeah, sure. That's good. Okay, so this is by all means do your magic, but
Is that a passcode or
yes, it's all caps OCMC.
I have the password to install Java or something like this.
That's just the only password that I have. It's my admin password.
Oh,
Cool. Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
His name is Jesus. His name is Wonderful Counselor, Almighty Praise your holy, holy, holy name. The name truly above every other name. The name high and exalted. The name with all power and authority over sickness, darkness, disease, all manner of ailment, over suicide. All hail the name of Jesus. All bow before the name of Jesus. All hail the name of Jesus. And we worship you. We give our lives to you. Hands up. Goodbye yesterday, I'm living in the light of a new day. I won't waste another minute in my old ways. Praise the Lord, I've been born again. Goodbye yesterday, I'm living in the light of a new day. I won't waste another minute in my old ways. Praise the Lord, I've been born again. I've been born again. Again and again and again and again. You rescued me out of the mess I was in. You traded my sorrow for something to sing. Now I'm dancing on the grave of I once lived in. Goodbye yesterday, I'm living in the light of a new day. I won't waste another minute in my own ways. Praise the Lord, I've been born again. Goodbye yesterday, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. I've got resurrection in my veins. Praise the Lord, I've been born again and again and again and again. You rescued me out of the mess I was in. You traded my sorrow for something to sing. Now I'm dancing on the grave that I once lived in. Again and again and again and again. You rescued me out of the mess I was in. You traded my sorrow for something to sing. Now I'm dancing on the grave that I once lived in. Come on, we say, I have decided to follow Jesus. Good morning, everybody. How are you? Good to see you. Welcome, welcome. We're going to get started because we want to make sure we have time. This is part 2. Pastor Jesse is taking us through the Working Genius. I was here for the very beginning last week and then watched for a second while I was driving to a funeral. And then I watched the rest of it just online. If you're watching and you missed part 1, you can go on Leadership Chapel YouTube page and watch it. It's all there. So, all right, take it away.
All right, so it is good to be with you guys again. Let's pray and we'll jump into this. God, I thank you for how you've made us and how you've wired us because it's awesome. Thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, so just a quick review of last week. What the Working Genius is not. It's not a personality test, introvert, extrovert test, spiritual gifts test, leadership ability test, strengths and weaknesses test. This is the model again. We've got wonder, which is your idea person, where you recognize what's going on. You see things that are missing, or you see the things that are right. Moves into invention, which is that person who just on the spot comes up with all sorts of ideas, and they really enjoy that. You've got discernment, which is the gut feeling of recognizing and enjoying the evaluation process. You've got galvanizing, which likes to push and inspire people to be a part of something. You then have enablement, which is the person who likes to respond to the galvanizer and jump in and help get projects off the ground. You then have tenacity, which is your finisher, who loves to finish things. They're the task list type of person. We then talked about the genius categories, where everybody's got two of these 6 things in their genius, 2 of them in their working competency, 2 of them are part of what we call the working frustration. And if you've got 2 that are in your working genius, those are the ones that you enjoy and get energy from that type of work. Again, it's not about skill, it's not about the spirituality, it's the enjoyment from that type of work. We then went over these right here, what each genius craves and what they're crushed by: wonder, consideration, and crushed by who cares. Invention craves freedom, crushed by restraint. Discernment craves trust, crushed by prove it. Galvanizing craves reaction, crushed by apathy. Enablement, appreciation, crushed by being overlooked. Tenacity, crushed by ambiguity, craves clarity. And so now we're going to go a little bit deeper, and this is where this model begins to really take shape. You know, we have this right here, but then there's a couple things we can do. And so the first thing is the 3 stages of work. And one of the things that the examples that they give is there was a shoe company who had wonder and invention and enablement and tenacity on all of their teams, and had almost 0 discernment and galvanizing. And so what would happen in their company is that they would come up, they would recognize that, hey, in the shoe market, we could do this and fill this gap. The invention would come up with something, and they would skip discernment and galvanizing and shoot it right over to the enablement and tenacity teams who are producing the shoes. And then they would wonder, why aren't these shoes doing well? It's because they didn't have anybody discerning, hey, that's actually going to do what you want it to do. So we have ideation, we have activation, and then we have implementation. Coming up with good ideas, but not being discerned or galvanized, will skip people. So I was talking to you about this last week. Whenever we have these 6 stages of work, whether it's a church or whether it's a business or whether it's in the home or whatever it is, we want everything to go through these 6 stages of work. And we want them to go through the ideation, the activation, and the implementation. But when we skip something, not only are we skipping part of the working process, we're also skipping people. Because people are what fill these things up. This isn't just a model to, hey, WID Jeep, but it's, no, I'm a WD. This is a Jesse right here. You know, hey, this is Pastor Kyle. One of these is, 2 of these are Pastor Kyle. 2 of these, these are people right here. So the ideation, activation, implementation, and this will make sense once we get to the team map even more. But imagine a team that maybe had W and I and DG, but didn't have anybody in E and T. Nothing would get done. So it's got to go through all 3 of these steps. So we have another one here. This one right here, responsive versus disruptive. And this is really, really interesting to me. This was huge when I learned about this, because what you have is you have wonder who is responding to the environment. And if you need to take pictures, definitely take pictures. But wonder responds to the environment and sees things that are going on and then points them out. The discernment person responds to the inventor and says, okay, what you're saying and the direction you're trying to go with your invention or your project and what you're doing is not working. I'm going to respond to you. Then you have the enablement person who says, I'll jump on board, responding to the galvanizer. I'm a double responsive person, meaning that most of what I do, I see what's happening and I'm waiting for someone to engage me. Does anybody else feel that way? Not too many? A couple, a little bit, and that's all right. Now then you have disruptive, which the inventor is disrupting what the environment is going, right? Because the inventor is saying, okay, you see something that needs to be changed. The inventor will come in and that invention process disrupts what's going on because it's changing something. The galvanizer then is, once it's gone through WID, the galvanizer is then coming in and disrupting the process. Not only is it saying, hey, we want to go this way, but it's also saying, hey, we don't want to go this way. So it's disrupting work all the way around. You then have the tenacity person who says, hey, we got to finish this on time and with excellence. You're not doing your job. You need to bring the level of your game up like right now. So if you have someone who's a double responsive and someone who's a double disruptor, they can usually get along pretty well. So me and my wife, I'm a WD and my wife is an IT. And that really helps us in a lot of areas in our life because I know what I'm not good at and what I don't enjoy. And I can talk to her about this and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking in my W. Can you come up with something so that then I can discern it because I enjoy those two things. She enjoys coming up with stuff. And then because it's just the two of us, we don't have to do much G. But then we both have E as a competency. So then we can both, I can help her in her tenacity and finish something off. So this is one of those things that we can look at. And when we look at our team, if you have someone who's a double responder and you're always wishing, hey, why don't you do more? Why don't you respond more? Why don't you get going more? It might be because of this right there. And all they need is that question of, hey, what do you think? Hey, what do you think about what's going on? What do you think about the project? Or, hey, will you just engage with us here and jump on this project? Maybe you have someone who is just always seemingly causing problems when all it is their invention, galvanizing, or tenacity that is trying to get the process moving. So when we understand the double responder or the double disruptor, it can really help our teams out quite a bit on understanding how to engage them. So the next thing, the altitude of geniuses. I really like this one right here. So when we are thinking about projects, let's just imagine just for a second that we've got, that we're all in a plane right here and we're all 30,000 feet in the air. The wonder person is at that 30,000 level that recognizes, hey, this group needs a vacation. I'm seeing that everybody's tired, everybody's worn out. We just need to take a vacation for a week and we need to go somewhere. And so then the wonder says, okay, hey, who or like my wife, we'll pop it off to my wife. It'll come down to 25,000 feet and she'll be like, okay, we need a vacation. Let's go to Arizona. There's some cool sites there. We can see the Grand Canyon. And then someone like me will come in and discernment and go, do you realize it's the middle of summer? I do not want to go to that heat. So the discernment person will bump it back up to 25,000 feet saying we need a better idea. And then it'll be like, well, why don't we go to Monterey Bay? It's pretty cool right now. It's not super hot. It's not super cold. Okay, that sounds like a great idea. So now it kicks down to a galvanizer who says, hey, everybody, we're going to all go on vacation. We want you to stop what you're doing this week. Let's all go together. We're going to go there. Let's get everything going. And then the enablement person says, yes. Hey, I'll help book the hotel. Or, hey, I'll help get everything ready for the food. Or I'll help plan out the event and get things going. And then the tenacity person comes in and says, I'm going to make sure that they do what they just said. Does that make sense? So now let's apply this to the church. What does that look like when we're creating a ministry? Because if we go from wonder and we say, okay, we need to do something with young adults, right? You're over young adults now? And then someone comes in and says, okay, we've created something that we think is a really good idea, and we skip discernment and say we go straight to galvanizing. We've just skipped a process, and we've created that word just left my mind, a jump from one level to another. We've skipped something. And so it could also be, hey, discernment. We've decided that, and we've gone through the discernment process of evaluating, yes, this will actually do what we want it to do. It goes to galvanizing, or say it skips galvanizing and we go right to enablement and nobody wants to join. Or it goes to galvanizing, it goes to enablement and nobody has tea, so it actually doesn't happen. I can't tell you how many times I've seen something to where they've got the whole first part of the process down and it gets to enablement and tenacity and nothing happens. And it's not just ministry, it's business, it's family events, it's whatever it may be. So if you think of it in this altitude, it'll help you kind of understand the process as well as far as coming up and down. And when we're a part of meetings, like when we're a part of either the campus pastor meeting or you guys have your specific campus meetings, if you're meeting and you're talking about WI and a little bit of D working through the process, and then you jump straight to T, you're creating a roller coaster in your meeting. So it's always good to identify where are we at in the meeting, and do we need to come back up for a little bit before we land the plane? So to create a level coming down on a project and in a process is really important, so we don't have those rubber band moments, those roller coaster moments in a meeting of, hey, what about this, or what about this, or what about this? Here's another thing about the meetings. Let's say you've gone through the process, you're now down in the ET, someone is galvanizing, you're getting ready to move into ET, but someone with wonder brings the meeting all the way back up. And you're like, hold on a second, don't go there, bring it back down. That's totally interrupting the process of what we're doing. We've already done this whole thing. We know this is a good idea. We know it's going to accomplish what we want it to accomplish. Why are you disrupting this right now? Let's ignore that. Let's bring it back down and land the plane. Or maybe the discussion is up here and it needs to stay up here, and someone in T is like, hey, let's land this plane right now. We got to get this moving. You're like, hold on, we haven't even discerned this yet. We're still going through that process. So this is really huge in meetings. This is one of the things that I loved as well. I love this whole thing, if you can't tell. I love this whole thing. So genius misconceptions. The misconception of genius is that wonder slows things down. I love this right here because not only is the pace important, which is true, but the direction is also important. And if you're not going the right direction, the wonderer is going to help make sure that that happens. So don't skip the wonder process. Even if it's just for a minute, slow down, make sure you're going the right direction. Invention. Only inventors are creative. It's true that inventors are especially creative in coming up with new and novel ideas or solutions. They also get joy and energy from that work. But all geniuses have the capacity for creativity. That's really important. We all have creativity in us. We just may not enjoy it like the person who has invention. So don't skip that process for yourself. Discernment. Discerners are always right. That is not true. Discerners always need another discerner in the process. Because a discerner can see something and feel like they've got everything right. They know exactly what's going to happen and how it's going to work, but they're missing some information. And that other discerner may have that information that the other guy doesn't have, or other person. And so you always need two discerners. Always need two discerners. It's called the ID loop, healthy ideological conflict. They're critical to arrive at the best decision. Galvanizing. Galvanizing is just cheerleading. That is really not true. And I feel like I know this from the opposite perspective because I hate cheerleading. And I know it's not cheerleading because when I tried to do stuff over at Hillmar and get people moving, not only did I not enjoy the process, because that's not me. Again, if I never have to do announcements another day in my life, I'll be happy. But I realized that it is critical for people to connect and inspire. And you may be really good at it, but hate it. And that's okay. Let's try and get somebody who's good at it and really enjoys it. That's the key. So enablement. Enablement is the only helping genius. While all geniuses can help at different stages of work, they tend to do it through the lens of their own genius. So in contrast, people with enablement have a propensity to anticipate the other's needs and help on their terms. So me as a WD, if I'm going to come help Pastor Kyle, I naturally think of helping Pastor Kyle through the WD lens of how I think. The enablement person enjoys getting out of their own head and saying, what do you need on your own terms, the way that you need it? And they love thinking about that and then doing that. Tenacity. Tenacity is always detail-oriented. Tenacity isn't just checking a box or perfectly covering every detail. It's about taking an idea, project, or plan and seeing it through to completion, all while ensuring it meets the intended standards and quality. Tenacity isn't specifically about the details. They love the details, but it's the bigger picture of completion that they love. The task is just one of the main ways that they get there. Because we all need tasks. We all need some sort of process for our own individual, hey, how do we get things done? Because we all have to get things done. The tenacity person just loves it more than anybody else. So then I'm gonna get this to everybody. I'll put this on the base camp. But there's a sheet that you can print off that has all of these types of things that you can print up, put on your desk or put on your wall so that you can begin to think about, hey, what does this mean in the process of what I'm doing? Where am I at in that process? And you can just think through it right on your own. It gives you, the wonder, gives you a little bit there, ideation, activation, responsive versus disruptive. But here's where it really begins to take shape, is the team dynamics. When you're a part of a team, it really begins to take shape. It really begins to flesh out in a way to where it's like, okay, I really see that person doing this. I really see where our team is missing. And so the team strengths, if wonder is present, we observe the environment, questioning current approaches and the status quo. We think about how things could be different, and it ponders those possibilities. And if you've got this, which this is me right here for sure, I really enjoy that part of it. And when you've got that there, it will really help the team quite a bit. Make sure you're going the right direction. Invention. You generate novel solutions and ideas, generates novel solutions. So this is the one that everybody sees and knows about, are the inventors. The discernment, the team strengths. We evaluate our ideas and ensure we pursue the best solution, defines and solves that best solution all the time through their discernment. Galvanizing, they rally the team around the best initiatives. enablement, provide and support needed to move the solution into the first stages of implementation. The tenacity, we hold ourselves accountable to finishing well. We enjoy seeing the full impact of our solution realized in the world. This is Rick over at Teen Challenge. He is the galvanizing tenacity person, and he just enjoys getting people moving and make sure that they finish. So the team challenges, if you don't have the wonder, you spend most of your energy on getting things done and rarely stop to discuss what's happening in the industry or environment. You often fail to identify serious problems or take advantage of major opportunities. I know some churches right now where they only have one person, and we'll see it here actually in just a minute. They only have one person in wonder. And most of their team has it as their frustration. And so it's hard for him to get people to come up and just, hey, let's talk about where we are for a minute, because the team hates doing that. And he's frustrated because they won't come up. Invention, unable to innovate. They feel frustrated and demoralized with their inability to create new solutions to frequent problems. We keep relying on the same products, services, or ideas. This is one of those things to where, oh man, that company just left my mind. And I'm trying to remember quickly and it's not working. But anyways, that company that's been around, Gottschalks, that's what I was trying to think of. Gottschalks stayed as a clothing store for years and years and years, and they were amazing at it, and they had those books, and they never innovated and died out. Because they couldn't change. They couldn't adapt to what was going on. So discernment, surprised by failures. We fail to evaluate, identify, and dismiss bad ideas before they get implemented. We don't spend enough time refining good ideas to make them better. That was the shoe company from earlier. The galvanizing fails to inspire. We fail to get the team rallied and focused around our best ideas and endeavors. And I'm going to show you something in just a minute about that. Enablement, we fail to champion the most important priorities. No one responds to the rallying cry around the idea or the solution, lacks the support to get things off the ground. And then if you don't have tenacity, you fail to complete the projects, move on to the next one before seeing the initiative all the way through. So if you want to take a picture of that, you can take a look at that. I'm not going to read the missing one because we kind of know that already, but the misusing, I want to go over real quick. Yeah, I can send most of these. I'll put a group of them on there. That's a good idea. I'll do that. But the misusing, when you're misusing wonder, you overthink the possibilities and can risk not taking action. And because this is me, WD, especially double responder, double thinker there, in that sense, I have to battle this all the time for myself. Reopens previously closed conversations and decisions, causing frustration on the team. I don't know if you have a leader like that or if you've had someone who's done that all the time. Because that, I have to, especially that second one there, I battle that on opening things back up. Invention, create solutions to problems that don't exist. You can waste a lot of time just creating things for the fun of it. Because it's fun. The inventor loves to invent. Hey, let's create this and let's create that. And hey, let's do this and let's do that. And it doesn't matter one bit because there's not a market for it. It's just for fun. Brings up new ideas or solutions after the team has moved on to implementation. Discernment ignores the other's judgments and can dismiss ideas without sensitivity. Gets caught in analysis paralysis and can be slow to make decisions. That is also something I battle with a lot because I think about it and I get stuck thinking about it because I just enjoy thinking. And then it's like, well, then what decision needs to be made? I don't know. Let's think about it a little bit more. And that's just stupid. That's unproductive. The purpose of analysis is to come to a conclusion and move on. Galvanizing, oversells the idea solution, often missing cues that others aren't on board, spins up energy and momentum around the wrong ideas or initiatives. And that can be disastrous if you're going the wrong direction. Enablement, overcommits and can say yes to too many people or projects, over values, keeping people appeased instead of focusing on the main objective. Because the enablement person is about the person, not necessarily the whole project, it can become easily about what does the person want versus what does the project need as a whole. Tenacity, rushes right to tactics and execution before an idea or initiative is fully explored, overemphasizes completing projects at the expense of others on the team. So now we're going to analyze what we call a team map. And so the team map is something that you guys will eventually get to at some point. But a team can take the assessment and it gets put on what are your geniuses and what are your frustrations. And so just real quick, I know this is brand new, but what do you guys see about this team map right off the top? What's something that sticks out to you when you see this team map? Galvanizing is a big frustration on this team. What else? Well, before we go on, what does that mean, that galvanizing is a frustration? Hate it. Yeah. See, it would be totally different if it was one in genius, but then everybody has it as a competency and nobody on frustration, versus one on genius and almost everybody else has it as a frustration. There is a difference when there's a competency there because people will jump in as they need to because it's not good or bad. It's just, hey, we can do this, let's get it going. But when it's a frustration, it's going the negative direction. What else? Anything else about this one? What about discernment? So this is a team of about 12 people, and there's only 2 that have discernment. What would you say to the team that only had these 2 as their genius? What would you say to this team? Anybody? Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So let's just say there's 12 people on this team. Most likely there's maybe about 3 teams that we could look at, about 4 people each. Most likely one of those teams is not going to have discernment as a genius. So what I would say to them is, hey, in the process of figuring things out, you need to go grab these 2 people for about 10 to 20 minutes and talk to them through what you're talking about and let them respond to what you want to do and just see if it's actually what you're thinking. Because we can get into that mode of, hey, I know this is where we're going, this is what we want to do, let's do it. And you can get stuck there if you don't have someone to say, that's not going to accomplish what you want it to accomplish. All right, next one here. So this was the church that I was talking to you about just a little bit ago. Oh, here's something too. The red dot means that it's the leader, and the leader always brings double impact in their geniuses and their frustrations. So what would you say about this team right here? This was a team of about 14 people. Or no, this one was 10 people, I think. Uh-huh. Double impact. Yeah. What else? Uh-huh. Yeah. No, I agree. So when I look at this right here, this was the first thing that I kind of came to is like number one, there are probably things that they're doing that they don't need to do because nobody's stopping to think about it. The second thing is that nobody likes to actually come up with the idea. And so my guess was that their discerners on their team discerned through their discernment, how do we invent what we need to do? Because there's a number of discerners on the team, and that's actually something that I do. I remember when I was working for Pastor Andrew back in the day, I would do bulletins, but I always got other people's ideas and then molded it for who we were as a church and put it together and edited it for our church. And that's what they do for all of their events. And they've gotten a lot better now. But this is what they did. The other thing is that because there's so much enablement, they would be able, and then pastors at G, so they could get things off the ground really well. But because there's so few in tenacity, they would do major events and only work on them for about 2 or 3 weeks. They weren't very good at planning out because they didn't have anybody in tenacity. They didn't have hardly anybody in wonder to go the right direction, begin the planning process well, and then they're doing like a major, 600-700 people marriage event, and it's all done in 2 weeks. And I actually was right about that. That's actually what they did, is their discerners were their inventors, and everything was done in 2 weeks. So here's some of the things that you can ask when you're reading a team map. What are the team's strengths based on the genius groupings? What are the team's weaknesses or underrepresented geniuses? Now that everyone's geniuses are represented visually on the map, is there a need to adjust or rethink roles? Good to Great. Anybody read Good to Great? I know we've talked about it a little bit. This is where that getting people on the right seat on the bus, this is one of the best tools I've ever come across to do that. And then the last one, who is the leader? The leader brings double the impact in their areas. So this was Hillmar Family Church where I was at. And this was an early version of the team map at the time. And just right off the bat, what do you see? No galvanizers at all. There are 7 people on this, and if you count this, there's 7 people in the frustration. Now, I've said this to my wife and a couple of other people. There were some spiritual things that were going on over there, but just looking at this on a practical level, now being not there for a year and a half, this was absolutely huge. This was a major problem for us. What else do you see? What else would you say? Anybody? This is what I would say. For our little group of 7 people, outside of wonder and galvanizing, we actually were pretty well represented. If we said, hey, we're going to do something for Christmas, I would talk to my wife, Chrissy, Christina, and then we had another gal, her name was Sarah, who did a wonderful job, those two together, of coming up with something for Christmas. And then the enablement and tenacity, we had the people who jumped on board and really were able to help. And I think our Christmas for 21 or was it 22? I think it was the Christmas of 21 is probably one of the most proud moments I've ever been as a pastor because of what we were able to pull off. As far as the decorations in the sanctuary, it was awesome. The message that we kind of came up with and worked through, and it was really, really, really good. So here's what we can look at through that. That was the HFC Mass. So here's how we're going to end today. is I want you to get together in groups of 3 or 4 and ask each person, what project have you been a part of in the past that has gone horribly wrong? Horribly wrong. Knowing what you now know about the working genius, how might you approach this project differently? So I'm going to give you some more questions to ask in a little bit, but get in groups of 3 or 4 and ask each person. Don't be shy. You guys all know each other. All right, as you're finishing that up, then reverse the question. What was a project that went really well that you can look back on and go, oh yeah, we actually went through all of the stages of the working genius, and that project or that ministry or whatever really went well? All right. So if we can, let's just come back together for just the last couple of minutes and just want to ask the groups here, does anybody want to share or is willing to share a project that went horribly wrong? And you can begin to see why it went horribly wrong and it didn't work well. Anybody willing to share something? Anybody?
It's on. It's on. I was able to lead kids camp this year for the first time, and I was really happy with how it turned out because I saw my skill sets, which was more the implement part of the widgets. But what part I did see was lacking was more, so it's like a plus and minus. It was great because I was able to enable people, galvanize, do the event, and all that stuff for all the different widgets. But what part was missing was the wonder. I didn't have a wanderer on the team, and so it was interesting to see the person who had previously led it was all wonder and no implementation. And so so it was like seeing that. So it was super great, successful. All the volunteers felt plugged in. We, all the expectations were met. Tasks were on, target dates and all that stuff. But we missed that element. Of, look at the stars. So so
look
it was
at
good,
the stars.
but just
That's
different.
Funny. That's good. Yeah. Yeah.
I had an observation about two different events. Of one event that I felt like was one of our best, and one of them that I just felt like did not go great. And it was the same team of people, but I realized that when the person that operates in the innovation and wonder gets to be able to operate in that realm, or if people operate in the realm that they are strength-wise, the whole event does better because people feel fulfilled. So they're willing to, even if it's not their, maybe even if it's a frustration, like galvanizing is the frustration, because they were able to stay in this wonder innovation, galvanizing was not an issue because they were fulfilled in their place. Versus when they were not the wanderer in this execution, but they were just somebody that was meant to enable, it was a much more complicated event because not just one person, but like different people didn't operate. And somebody was doing the wonder that shouldn't have been doing the wonder. It was me. And so like, but when I was over here and I was the tenacity and able to like, I'm executing, I'm day of person that's like, we're getting things done. This whole event was so much smoother versus this event that was like, I'm here just saying, hi, everybody, we're going to do something, does that make sense?
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And see, that's a good point because the best leader, there's not one of these. Let me go back to this real quick. There's not one of these right here that is better than the other. The best leader is a self-aware leader. It's not a, hey, the WI is the best leader or the ID or the DT or the whatever. The best leader is a self-aware leader to know what your strengths are and then to know what your team's strengths are and plug them in to fill in the gaps of where you're weak. So any other projects or any other work went really, really well that you can look back on and say, yes, this went really, really, really well. We did get all of those gaps. Anybody? Anybody at all? All right. So then here's the last thing that I want you guys to talk about, and we'll be done. Oh, wrong thing there. What are your top takeaways from the Working Genius training? And you guys can do that in your group, and then Pastor Kyle will be done, or we'll come up in just a couple minutes, and we'll end from there. In your groups. Do that in your groups.
Hello, hello. All right. You know, you referred to one comment, and then we'll share thanks, and then we'll pray. Well, and as I think about it, I just don't let the conversation end here. If there's somebody that you'd like to connect with, whether it's us or your campus pastor, or to ask questions, or to probe a little deeper, or say, hey, this has really highlighted why I feel the way I do about this, or this frustration or hurt or whatever. Let's not let that just be swept under the rug. You've mentioned good to great last week and this week now in the teaching, just referring this book that is one of the most central leadership organizational books of the last 20 years. But and the whole idea is good is the enemy of great, and there's just all kinds of stuff. But yeah, towards the beginning of the book, it talks about that it's not just getting the right people on the bus, then you got to get them into the right seats on the bus. So get them into the organization, the bus, on the team, the bus, but then get them into the right roles, the right seats on the bus. And you talk about this being a lot of how you get people onto the right seats, into the right seats. And I just want to validate something as it relates to the subject of transition, as people come and go and move into different roles and then move off the bus. I actually also think that a tool like this is a way that people find themselves off the bus. And usually it's because they take themselves off the bus. Maybe it's just the role that they were hired to do, where there may be an opportunity, there may be the space organizationally, because other roles might be filled, or there might be the pay for that role. They realize that doesn't really fit them, and the only option then is to either step off the bus, or I guess you could get into a different role, but maybe it's just one that's more volunteer or something like that. And we're seeing that with people. We're seeing that in this season. And I kind of want to validate that as we process through, there's seasonal things that basically sometimes somebody has a season where they can lean in, and sometimes there's a season where they need to step out. They're still part of our lives, our family, and like that. That's a picture, but I think I just see this really as a learning tool that helps us understand and validate one another in the midst of transition as well. Normalize the reality that sometimes there's a 10-year window in which team looks a certain way, and then the next 10 years it looks completely different as we're shuffling different things and people are feeling different things, season of life, different things, season of family life, different things. So that just was kind of like, as I was thinking about it, because I'm always trying to get the right people into the right seat on the bus. But then I've been a part of a few conversations where I'm like, I just don't have a seat for you. Or they say, I don't want to be in that seat, or I don't want to be on the bus anymore. And that's like, okay, that's okay. So let's share our thanks to Pastor Jesse for this teaching. Thank you. And I also want to take this time, because we're coming to a close of you guys just being officially part of the One Church team. So Jesse and Chrissy, thank you guys for the last 8 months of being a part and being so faithful, being interim campus pastors down in Turlock. We're very grateful for you guys. The current plan at some point, when the Lord helps them to get a few things done with family and what have you, is they'll be moving to Oregon is the plan. It's the dream. And so they're preparing for that. And we'll miss you. We love having you in this area. But thank you for helping us in this season with Turlock. Thank you for helping Daniel and Chrissy as they've been, candidating and doing the residency and preparing for that. You guys were just such a blessing. So one more time, share our thanks for them. And on that note, be in prayer, but Daniel and Chrissy, who usually watches this stuff a little later time, she's working. They have completed their residency. They have been interviewed by Marcia and I, by the campus pastors, by the board of directors, and passed through all that. And so this Sunday, the congregation of the Turlock campus will have an opportunity to give an expression, and we are certain that will go well. But as it goes well, they will be the new campus pastors down in Turlock. So anyway, we're excited for that. So we'll talk more about that as next week. So, all right, that's it. Thank you guys for coming to chapel. We will see you. Lord bless us as we go. Amen. Love you all.